Are expecting to brief the media before their another kickoff tour. We're going to go there live now. I understand that Lerato Tipa is outside where that media briefing is expected to happen. A very good morning to you, Lerato. I see a very heavy police presence there behind you and many rugby fans. Take us through what's happening there and what's expected and what's on the agenda, really, what's on the program from the Springboks this morning.
Well, Flo and PE, it is excitement all around. I can tell you that the rain, the cloudy weather has not stopped the many fans who are here at the Garden Court Hotel, where the Springboks have just gone onto the bus and they'll make their way onto the City Hall, where we'll have a address by the mayor. But it's all about the fans, man. We just had a press conference right now, and Springbok coach has said that it all is about the fans. They have made this win possible. So I want to talk to them and see exactly who they saw and how excited they were. You saw the Springboks come out. How was that moment for you? Who did you see and who are you excited to see?
I'm excited to see Cheslin Colby because I really look up to him, and I felt very emotional and happy to see them coming out.
Okay, let's speak to some young people as well. You saw the Springboks come up. Who did you see and how was that moment for you?
It was very great for me to see Sia Kolisi and the whole team, and I'm very happy to see them today.
Okay, here's a very passionate guy who said, "Come on, gents, go, gents." You're such an excited fan. Who did you see? I see your selfie is still up. How excited are you to be here?
Actually, I'm very excited that I'm meeting Sia Kolisi. He's a great inspiration for me. My friend goes to Grey, and I'm very excited to see him here.
So those are some of the fans expressing their joy. So I want to try to see if we can just walk over so you just can get a shot of the bus. That is the bus that you see right there. It has the Springboks on board. They are making their way right now to the City Hall, where they'll be welcomed by the mayor and various people from the rugby fraternity. My cameraman, Obani Blom, is just going to try to show you exactly how this bus looks. The players there on top, as you can see, Rassi Erasmus, also very much welcomed here. He's from Dispatch, and people so excited to see them, people screaming. A shot there of Sia Kolisi. There's the beautiful cup, as you see right there, being held in hand by Zondile Stig. So that's a beautiful shot you see right there of Sia and the cup. There it is, that beautiful cup that has now come home to Port Elizabeth.
All right. Well, we really want to be let in on what exactly we're expecting to hear from the Springboks. And is there going to be the same kind of tour that we saw yesterday going through East London? I mean, it was quite a long day for the Springboks and the fans in East London. Are we expecting sort of, similar scenes today? We see they're still on that bus of theirs, that open bus.
Yes, they're expected to actually have a media address and also addressing people at the City Hall. And also Greenegg has a local mall here in Port Elizabeth where they're expected to come out, sit on the podium and speak to some of their fans. I think more than anything else, they want to have interaction with their fans besides the bus. They've said that they want to go out, say hi to their fans. Sia Kolisi is also from Zwide Township, where he grew up, and his talent was nurtured. So he has said that when he gets that township specifically, he wants to get out, shake some hands, say thank you, because this win belongs to them.
Right, Lerato, my apologies. I hear you've changed surname now, so congratulations to you, Lerato Fekisa, no longer Tipa. So congratulations on your nuptials. And of course, that's the Springboks are in PE today. We saw them up and down all over East London yesterday, in going through the streets and greeting their fans. And it looks like it's going to be another day like that for them. And as we heard, of course, Sia Kolisi will particularly be excited today because he'll be going to Zwide, where he is originally from. Of course, as we did yesterday, we will continue to track the whereabouts of that bus, and of course we'll be showing you that press briefing that they're expected to have quite shortly, and we will of course cross to Lerato, who will let us know what is happening throughout. Well, the official start of the World Cup tour in Nelson Mandela Bay leg commences at the City Hall. Large crowds are expected to witness the box in Port Elizabeth, as it is home to many of the players and technical staff. The birthplace of black rugby has produced the likes of Sia Kolisi, Lucanio M and Mzwandile Stick. Our reporter Zolani Moya has been bringing us the latest on what's happening. Let's cross there live to him. A very good morning to you. I see you with some school children there. Take us through where you are and really the excitement that we've seen really throughout the province really this weekend. Just talk to us about what's happening. happening.
Niye 3 times banamane niphunga ninyusela ukubacingela udignity namane hayi niyahamba.
All right, it seems that he can't hear us. Alani can't hear us at the moment. We will then come back to him in a very short moment. All right, let's take a look at our next story then. We're going to go to Tabiso, who's live to us as well. Let's just take a look at our screen where he is at the moment. All right, good morning to you. I thought we were crossing to Tabiso. A very good morning to you. Take us through where you are at the moment and what's happening.
I don't know if you can hear me, but we are standing at the city centre, and as you can see behind me, it's an absolute jubilation. There are thousands of people here to support the Springboks, you know, for winning the World Cup. People have come out their numbers. We saw yesterday at the airport as well, there was an ocean of green and gold, you know, to support homeboys, you know, Siya Kolisi, Zwadile Stick, Rassie Rasmus is also from here. You know, the Eastern Cape is the home of black rugby. But here, black rugby legend Themba Ludwana is here to talk to us. So can you tell us how important is rugby development in producing these national players?
Rugby development is very important because with development you can take kids out of the streets and concentrate on sport. Now this word of development came in 1992 after unit. Otherwise we've been developed long before. Myself, I was trained by my teacher at primary school level up to secondary school, and I played club level and provincial level up to national level through development of the schools. That time we didn't play all of us South Africans. The colors were playing together and the whites were playing alone, and then we're playing against colors. So this word of development only came after 92 unification. Otherwise, if now we can continue with the programs of development, there will be a lot of Springboks that will come out of the schools in township and in the northern areas.
So you've gone through all the ranks, you've played for SAARB, EPIRB. Rugby has really changed and transitioned with our country's rich history. How great is it, do you feel, that a black man, Siya Kolisi from Port Elizabeth, has led, you know, this team to victory at the World Cup?
As I'm saying, if now we have supported the 1992 up to 1995 World Cup, all the youngsters were interested. Like for instance, Kolisi is coming out of the ranks of the development from those years. So it's a very good thing that Kolisi is a captain and then he came back with the trophy. There are a lot of Kolisis that are out there that must be developed. But the problem is we don't continue. There's no continue in the development. And even now in provincial level, there was a program of development. It's lacking because they don't involve people who knows rugby. They involve people who doesn't know rugby. So if now we can check the clubs in the areas to be involved in schools rugby, then we'll get a lot of policies in future.
So I'm going to cut you right there. Thank you so much. With me as well, I have Stick's former coach, the assistant coach of the Boks now, but his former coach who coached him at Springrose. So can you tell us what was Stick like as a player?
Oh, he was very brilliant. He showed the touches of brilliance from young age.
That's good to hear. And how do you feel his qualities as a player? Has it helped him at all as a coach in his transition?
No, I knew that he will make it because he was very disciplined and he was very emotional because the rugby got emotional parts. Then he was always there and he talked his heart out, and he doesn't just agree on anything. He helped me a lot to be with him because he was my helper as well. He helped me in many ways because he was very motivated. Now I can see in the Springbok team that there's someone who's there, who's whispering to the boys, especially the boys from like Mapimbi, the amount of but you could see his finishing touches from those boys. He brought a lot, but I must praise Rasiman but for sporting sticks and for his confidence. He was confident of that he will make it. He built confidence and brilliant combination between forwards and backs. That's why the team look better. And one other thing, it shows that really we need each other, you know. Because nothing happened, but the boys were there, were hunger. The hunger. It's not easy for a coach to train people to be hungry, but you could see the hunger there. But it's the way he motivates them. Yeah,
Thank you so much, Coach Lucky. As you can see, the coaches, the friends, the family, the fans are all so proud of the boys, you know, for bringing that cup home. As you can see behind me, the people are very excited, awaiting the national team to come to the city centre. I had gotten a confirmation from my colleague Lerato Tipa, who was just on air with you earlier, that they are on the bus and they are on their way there. So for now, it's back to you in studio. We'll cross back to you as soon as the Boks arrive.
Kim Daniels are expecting the Boks there. Thank you very much for that. As I've said, the Springboks are up and down in PE today. So that's, I suppose, the last of their Eastern Cape tour. I understand they're still finishing off of that 5-day tour, and we'll give you all of that action. You can see some of the fans there already waiting in anticipation for the Springboks. I can imagine we'll see similar scenes that we saw yesterday throughout East London. So quite a busy weekend for the Springboks, and in particular, I would assume for Siya Kolisi and Mzwandile Stick, who are particularly from this particular region in PE. Well, the official start then of the World Cup tour, Nelson Mandela Bay Leg, commences then at the City Hall. Large crowds, as you saw, want to witness the Boks in Port Elizabeth, as it is home to many of the players and technical staff. The birthplace of black rugby has produced the likes of Siya Kolisi, Lucanio M, and of course Mzwandile Stick. Our reporter Zolani Moya has been bringing us the latest on what's happening there. Let's cross then to you. A very, very good morning to you. Take us through where you are. I see you have some students in uniform there around you. Take us through the excitement really, as these young learners are obviously quite excited to be meeting, seeing rather, their heroes today.
A very good morning to you. Yes, we are indeed broadcasting live here at Msengeni Primary School, which is the Siya Kolisi school. Siya never gave up on his dream of representing the Springboks under these appalling conditions behind me until 2003, was at a local tournament. He never gave up on his dream of representing the Springboks. However, I have Mulelo Gitane here next to me, who is the president of African Bombers. Sir, can you just tell us about the role that Siya has played in your club?
Nkosi Msasas, le club idlalelwa nguSiya African Bombers ina 64 years. And ukuba uyayibona le club ibadge yayo, zange simunderstande utata uMaqhagana, the first president of African Bombers, ndoba why wayesenza ilandi emblem nje. It means wayene vision.
Can you, if you don't mind, sir, can you just stick to English, please?
Oh, wayene vision that this club one day will produce a leader of Africa, a leader of the world. Usiya came as an ordinary child. Waqala eNtyatyambo, and eNtyatyambo was not a rugby school. Weza apha eMsengeni. Wabhaqwa ngutata uSonguqa. Baya bonke ke nontloko nothanga pha kwi-juniors, and then from juniors wabhaqwa ke ilandi iphi waya ku-Cravenwick. Irole ayidlalileyo ngoku, and masitsho man, le history ngokuyenziwa nguSiya isikhumbuza also noButsilas Nganunu. Utata uNganunu was the first president, Yesaru.
Thank you so much, Brambo. That was Mulelo Gitane, the president of African Bombers. Thank you so much for schooling us. Tanga, you are the childhood friend of Siya Kolisi. You guys grew up together at Tembu Street, Zwide. Can you just take us down memory lane about your friendship with Siya Kolisi?
If I could tell about the friendship you have with Siya Kolisi, Siya ukhula njengomuntu wonke as an ordinary person. Ube respect not only to the elders, even kwintanga zakhe, but ke beyenza besoloko yenza nepassion. And okusibini not only ngakakusport into beyenza sentsho nakwincwadini zakhe ba uyenza ngenhliziyo yakhe yonke into. And ke naye ngumuntu wasuba ngumzawuthi umuntu beperfect, ngumuntu naye benazo impazamo. Yabo, and ke okusibini into eyamnceda ke ngoku nje basikhula sonke sidlala isoka irugby, but ke ngoku waphele ekhuthalele icala lerugby. And then go lapho ke wayaphumelela khona.
Well, Mzwani Listic, who is the current assistant coach of the Springboks Rugby Football Club, has also played a very instrumental role in terms of rebuilding Springboks in New Brighton. Mr. Khandela Mani, as an official, what can you tell us about Mzwani Listic, the role that he has played into your club?
Yeah, no, Stokololo is a product of grassroots rugby. He never went to a Model C school. He's from an ordinary school, a township school that Siya has come from. And he rose up to the ranks. And the clubs like Spring Rose, African Bombers, those are the institutions, are normal clubs. These are the clubs. Spring Rose is 1907. I mean, we are the home of Springboks. We have produced, even the African Bombers is following suit in terms of producing Springboks. So rugby to us is second to nature.
Yeah, and I can imagine Siya and his teammates will be bringing the Webb Ellis Trophy, roving around, the streets of Sweden. Can you imagine the jubilation of these young kids?
Exactly. These youngsters are prisoners of hope. In fact, every black child is a prisoner of hope, because one day he or she knows get to the top. Siya has shown the way, Stokololo has shown the way, Thando Manana has shown the way, Chibilika has shown the way. So anything is possible if you are disciplined, dedicated, and have a leadership. That's why we have the likes of Mbulelo Gitan. He played as well. And the juniors like Nansikaba, Ontok, they are following in
Thank you very much.
Trend.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamani, for schooling us about the rich history of Springboks Rugby Club in New Brighton. Well, as you see around me, all these kids are sharing the same common vision. They are so jubilant. Well, that is what I have here for now in PE. Back to you in Johannesburg.
All right, thank you very much, Zolani Moya. At the school where Siya Kolisi was attending, and I'm sure they're just so excited to see what the possibilities are really for them and the learners that are at this school. All right, so those visuals that we're bringing you here now, as you can see, the bus has started to move. The bus is en route now. Let me just give you the route the planned route for Port Elizabeth today. So departing from Garden Court, City Hall, we're expected to move at 9 o'clock, but I'm sure we can understand with all the logistics and things sort of fell behind. So they were expected to move at 9 a.m., depart from Garden Court Hotel to City Hall, turn right into Happy Valley Drive, into La Roche Drive, turn right into La Roche Drive and proceed to Beach Road, then to turn left into Beach Road and continue into Humewood Road, continue along Humewood Road into South Union Road, and then they'll continue straight into Barkin Street and turn right into Vuyisile Mini Square. And of course, we know that one of the major stops will be Zwide, that township where, of course, Siya Kolisi comes from. That's his hometown, and I'm sure that'll be quite an emotional one and exciting one for Siya Kolisi. So there it is. It has left the original venue, and as you can see, with heavy police presence. And that, of course, is not only to protect the Springboks themselves from all the crowds that'll be obviously excited to see them, but also because the Webb Ellis Cup is, of course, with the Springboks as they show it off to everyone as they have been doing. Let me cross over then to Thabiso Setole, who's somewhere on the highway from what I saw from those visuals. A very good morning to you, Thabiso. I know that the bus will at some stage be passing you, so at some stage you'll have so many people around you, as was the case yesterday in East London. Tell us what you're expecting from your day today.
Yeah, well, good morning, Flo, and good morning to our viewers on SABC News channel. You spoke about Humewood Road, Flo. The calm before the storm, as it were. There's some traffic officials as well as some security personnel. I'm going to ask our camera, Mr. Tempest Musisi, to pan around and give you another shot, an eye view of what we're expecting. Some of these people have been here the whole morning. They've been hoping and asking us at SABC News whether the bus is coming this way. We're telling them, look, we hope so. But yes, we can confirm that they are really coming. These streets, in a couple of minutes, flow will be, it's going to be hectic. As usual, we saw yesterday out in East London, as soon as people see that SABC News is there, they're going to be lining the streets. Here's some of the youngsters here. It's a bit windy, it's overcast, a bit of a damper, as it were, on the proceedings. That's what we thought, and we woke up because it was raining. But as you can see, people are starting to filter through. They were going to come through and watch the Springboks or see them drive through their neck of the hoods. It's great excitement all around, Flo. We've been seeing since the trophy tour began, the Springboks have been having huge support. In fact, let me do this. Let's turn around. I want to speak to that youngster right there, that young man. Let's see what he's got to say. Maybe he's got a favorite play. We saw a lot of Faf de Klerk fans yesterday. Good morning, sir. Good morning, young man. How are you? Speak to me. The Springboks are going to come any moment now. Who are you looking forward to seeing the most?
Siya Kolisi and Faf de Klerk.
I told you, Flo, everyone's a Faf de Klerk fan. I don't know what it's got to do about the Speedo. Your best part of this World Cup, did you watch it first?
Yes.
What is the best part for the World Cup for you?
It was the finals when it was the last minutes of the game and everybody screamed when Springboks took the World Cup.
Were you screaming?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you your favorite fan is. I know that you are probably a Sharks fan like myself, yes? Yeah, Sharks fan. Sir, let me bring you into the picture as well. It's great excitement throughout. I mean, we've seen a lot of you lining up the streets and as far as supporting the Springboks. What did this mean for this part of the world, and particularly the home of Rassie Erasmus and Siya Kolisi, your captain?
I think it brought about a lot of unity in the community. There's a great sense of proudness of what all the South Africans here, we all stand as one. And as the slogan says, together we are stronger.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, I'm going to bring in this young lady. This young lady was asking me if the bus has gone through, ma'am. No, the bus has not gone through. It's still coming. Yeah. And I know you're worried whether you're going to miss it or not.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. Go Bokke!
Well, Flo, I'm going to go back this way and try and see if we can't get more reaction. As I said, people slowly starting to filter in, trying to see who their favourites are as far as the Springboks are concerned. Let's get some more reaction. I saw a little one. I think that's one right there. See, there's a little teeny bopper over there. I'm going to ask Mommy if you can speak to her. Mommy, how are you? Do you mind if you speak to your daughter?
No, you can speak to her. It's okay.
Does she follow rugby?
Yes, she knows the poko, that's all.
Now, we've seen you here with your family. It's a great occasion, isn't it? In particular for the locals. A lot of people we were discussing throughout saying, why is the World Cup not coming to the likes of Limpopo, not coming to Pulwan? You guys are just but a handful who will experience the excitement.
Yes, of course, it's exciting for us. I mean, to have our own Siya Kolisi and then to have the World Cup and to see everyone coming through. And we just appreciate the fact that it's going to go through so everyone will get a chance to see. So you don't really have to go to a particular place. You can just stand here and you wait in excitement and you just know that they will pass through and we'll get a view.
Sisam, how are you? Are you fine? So, Mommy says, I'm a Bokke.
Do you know I'm a Bokke?
Oh, there it is, Flo. There it is. She knows exactly what the Springboks are. Let's turn to our left. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
You've been waiting in anticipation. When we arrived, you guys were here. I remember you even asked us if it's still coming. Yes, it is.
Yes.
According to Flo, my anchor out back in studio in Johannesburg, she says the bus has left. So any moment now, it should be coming over the horizon. Expectations were huge before we went to the World Cup. I know a lot of people didn't give us a chance. Let's be honest. Did we give us a chance?
Well, not really, and that's what has been so absolutely wonderful about this is the fact that we won, and of course the fact that Siya Kolisi is from Port Elizabeth and went to Grey Junior School and Grey High School, and we are so proud and just can't wait to see him and the rest of the Bokke.
Do you mind if you speak to your young ones,
okay,
ladies? You guys are twins, yes? Yes, I'm not quite sure which I'll be speaking to now. I was speaking to one of the young ladies there, and I asked them who their favorite player is. And if somebody says Faf de Klerk one more time, I think he's going to run for president. Faf de Klerk.
Yes.
Did you guys enjoy it?
Yes.
Who are you expecting to see now as the bus comes? In fact, I think that's the bus that's coming right now. You see, there's police over there. That should be the bus. Who are you expecting to see as they come your way?
Siya Kolisi, Faf de Klerk, all of them in the bus.
Yeah. Let's speak to your twin. Who are you expecting to see?
The whole team and lots of police because.
Lots of police?
Yeah.
You obviously watched the World Cup. What was your most, entertaining or pride moment? I know probably winning the World Cup, but as far as enjoying it, wasn't enjoyable as much as everyone sitting at home watching?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I was really surprised that we won because I did not think we were going to beat against England, but yeah.
How do you surprise? What do you mean? You didn't think we'd win? Okay. What is important about the guys, the fact that Siya Kolisi, Rassie Rasmus are all from your area of the wood? You must be proud being from this area of the country.
Yeah, after this, I actually am ready to be a proud South African, and yeah.
You don't play rugby, do you?
No, but I wish I did.
But there is a Springbok women's team. Why don't you join up?
I was thinking of doing it.
Well, I'm going to cut out here for a while. As I said, just behind the camera, I'm going to ask Musisi to turn around and see. As you can see, it's getting there. The moment that a lot of people have been waiting for. There's the bus carrying the Springboks as well as the Webb Ellis Trophy. We're trying to pause there and not get into trouble, as in terms of traffic anyway. But great excitement. The streets here at Humewood Road Flow have been lined up. A lot of people waiting for this very moment. So let's soak in the atmosphere as they come towards us. There you go, the flags, Springbok flags waving as the young, in fact, it's not a young man, I think he's old enough to, my dad said earlier, stronger together has been the motto of this team throughout, and we've heard testimony from both Siya Kolisi as well as coach Rassie Rasmus saying the one thing that brought this team together is the fact that they were not doing it for themselves, they're doing it for these people here on the streets who've lined up, come out, be it grey skies overhead, all they wanted to do was do it for South Africans, and surely it's a moment to be proud as you can see them coming through. There it is, the Webb Ellis Cup trophy. Siya Kolisi, Lumko at the top. Siya Kolisi there again, once again lifting it up. And there's Faf de Klerk, the favorite of everyone, sitting right in front of the bus with his cap backwards. That's the one. A lot of people, I'm sure the ladies will be smiling, looking forward to seeing them again. Journalistic, the backline coach, the one who has his trophy in his hand right now, getting a thumbs up. The SABC News crew as usual. We've been covering this so well. A lot of people are appreciating what the SABC News has been doing, bringing the pictures to everyone at home. After all, this is well, that's what South Africa does, isn't it? SABC News, we bring everything that you need to know as far as production is concerned, as far as entertainment is concerned, as far as knowing the story of the country and knowing everything that is happening with everything you need. For now, I'm going to cut away. I'm sure that we've got other crews who are standing by, will take over from us. As you've seen, the bus has just gone past us from here on in, Spusi and myself, and it goes straight through to Zwide. Obviously, Siya Kolisi's home ground, his playground. That's where we expect bigger crowds, more people will be coming through to help celebrate this South Africa's Springbok World Cup trophy tour. Over to you in studio.
All right, thank you very much, Tabiso. I mean, you would have seen that little girl. She couldn't be older than 2 years old. And as soon as Tabiso mentioned the Springboks, she already knew to point to the logo on her jacket. And I thought that was just incredibly beautiful and so cute. All right, so as I said, very well represented in Port Elizabeth, as we were yesterday in East London. All our reporters on the ground. And in fact, we're across now to Janine Lee, who is in one of the vehicles that's following the bus that has the Springboks with him. I can see Faf de Klerk. This guy loves the attention, doesn't he? Look at him with his backward cap and right there, front and center. I mean, he's soaking it up. I mean, he's so well loved, and I think a lot of people got to know about Faf de Klerk during this World Cup. So kudos to him. I mean, he's really sort of taking in there. Mzwandile Stick, the assistant coach, holding the Webb Ellis Cup. I think he's between him and Siya Kolisi. The two of them have been holding that cup so much it must be full of their fingerprints. So let's cross then to Janine Lee. She's in the vehicle following the bus, the Rugby World Cup bus, the Champions bus. Let's cross over to her then. Good morning to you, Janine. Take us through the scenes, what's happening. I mean, we can really clearly see all the excitement and so many vehicles there in front and behind the Springboks bus. Take us through what's happening from where you are stationed at the moment.
In some places, they couldn't even get off the bus for fear of being swamped by their fans. We're currently heading just under the bridge at Barkens Valley, and we are now making our way towards City Hall, where there will be a reception for the team and management, and it is expected that the players will get off the bus. It will all depend on how many people are there and what sort of security is in place, but the plans are that they will get off. This is just one of many stops where the bus will be going today. They will be going all through the metro, which includes Port Elizabeth, Uitenhage and Dispatch, and of course then to Zwide, where Siya Kolisi comes from, and New Brighton, where Mzandile Stick comes from. So we are going to, well, we do expect that today is going to be a wild ride. Very busy here. The fans have come out. A lot of clouds today and a bit of rain this morning, but they say in some cultures rain is a very good sign. It's held off for now, but we've had reports from our reporter in New Brighton, Iviwe Poti, that it is raining there. So I think some people might get wet today, but I doubt that it's going to dampen anyone's spirit at all. Here at City Hall is phenomenal. If I can tell you, the sound of the crowd is absolutely deafening. This is what the fans have been waiting for. It's been a long 20 weeks for the players, but they are giving back to their fans no matter how tired they are. As you can see, young and old have come out in support today. The weather certainly hasn't kept them away. We're expecting a lot of wind today. You can see Siya Kolisi standing up there on the top of the bus. Hopefully he's going to have some steady feet, because if the Port Elizabeth wind does blow as it's predicted, it might be a bit hairy up there for him. But there you can see him lifting that trophy as high as he can. A proud moment for the players, and so fantastic for the fans to see their idols. They've been waiting a long time for this.
That must have been awesome coming through here, and all of a sudden
this Port Elizabeth leg is extremely significant for this trophy tour. Captain Siya Kolisi grew up in Zwide. The backline coach Mzwandile Stick, New Brighton is his hometown, and of course coach Rassie Erasmus comes from Dispatch, which forms part of the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Kim Daniels. She is here at Vuyisile Mini Square at the City Hall, and she will update you a little bit further as this tour progresses.
All right, we're going to be crossing shortly to Kim Daniels, who's also at City Hall. And as I've said, we've got quite a number of reporters on the ground. So we will be crossing back and forth from all parts of PE today. I must just say, I'm really excited for when that bus hits Zwide. I understand that people are waiting already in anticipation and so excited. And you must understand just the significance, really, because of the fact that Siya Kolisi is, in fact, from Zwide. So you can imagine how much excitement is in that township at the moment. Yesterday we went to East London, we went to Mdantsane, and I mean the utter just sheer excitement of the young boys there, it was just palpable, and it was just so exciting, and I can imagine that today we will experience similar scenes from Zwide. So just for me personally, I just can't wait to see when that bus hits Zwide. So of course those scenes at the moment coming from City Hall. Thabiso was at Humewood Road, and of course we saw the bus passing them there. I imagine that Thabiso were moving to another spot. Just to remind you that from Humewood, right, at the moment they're at City Hall and at the mini square there. So what's then going to happen from this point is that they're going to turn into Govan Mbeki Avenue, continue along Govan Mbeki Avenue, cross Russell Road and proceed along Govan Mbeki Avenue into Commercial Road, continue along Commercial Road and turn right into Mati Road. So it's quite a long one for today, but I will be keeping you updated as we continue throughout this morning. I'm going to cross over now to our other reporter who's there in PE, Tandom Koli. I understand that you have a guest with you. You look to be in a hotel. All right, so you're very fancy today. Tando, take us through where you are, what's happening, and who's your guest this morning?
Yes. Well, I've taken a bit of an upgrade from Tanzania to the lofty suburb of Samstrand. Yes, I'm talking to Bernard Peters, a rugby legend in the community of Port Elizabeth. Today we're kicking things off with demystifying all the myths about rugby. We first going to kill off the myth about coloured rugby. We're going to take it back and look at the history of coloured rugby. Bernard, firstly, welcome to the agenda. We're going to talk about coloured rugby. Please give us a brief history about your rugby credentials and give us a brief history about the game itself and how long the community has played the game.
Thank you, Tando. Thank you, listeners, or viewers, what I say.
Viewers, yeah.
Rugby, my rugby credentials hails from a very young age at primary school, where I played Eastern Province, as well as at high school, at David Livingstone High School, and then obviously continuing into my tertiary institution, the Howard College of Education, the Teachers College, where I also played in the SA Colleges team as well. There I met the legendary Alistair Coetzee. That was my captain at that stage, and we continued playing right up until 1991, just prior to unification. So 1989, and I must say 1989, it's a significant year because that's the 100th anniversary of Eastern Province Rugby, that was started in 1889, and that particular year we were celebrating the century, the 100th anniversary of Eastern Province Rugby, and it was in 1989 that myself and Alistair was also part of the South African. Well, prior to that, 1987, I managed to don the South African junior Saru junior Springbok, I would say, and I was in that team as well. In 89, followed into the senior team, 89 and 1990, and it was in those years that myself and Alistair and many others that I can mention at this stage, that donned rugby and so on, that played rugby, and that's and then obviously I was fortunate that I also played in the post unification period, where I made the South African development team, played against France in Welcome in 1993, 94, also made the South African Barbarians team, Sevens team, etc. Unfortunately never made the Eastern Province local team for various reasons, obviously.
Tell us about growing up in the rugby community. You obviously grew up in a rugby community where the game was played, and your father played. I take it. Your grandparents played. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. I think the significance growing up playing rugby was junior rugby. We had a system in place those years where you played for your primary school as well as the community clubs. And those clubs were very strong. My father was, fortunately, he was the chairperson of a particular club, Swans Rugby Football Club, and that's where rugby was where I was shaped. Playing at that level. You had teams all over Port Elizabeth playing in this community league. So you play on Wednesdays you play your school rugby, and on Saturdays we play club rugby. So it was the junior level then, and from junior level you move straight up into your senior level.
Okay. So it's like earlier this morning I was talking to a couple of legends downstairs, and they were telling me about African Bombers, Sia's old club, and they're telling me about this club being formed in 1952. Tell us about the coloured clubs that were around those times.
Well, St. Mark's is one of the oldest clubs. I think 1917 and they are still existing. We have Thistles, that is 1927. They're still in existence. Swans, unfortunately, 1929, the club that I started playing, are no longer in existence. But this year, some of the guys felt that celebrating the 90th year. You have Wallabies also still in existence, Van Vogel United, and a number of other clubs that are Glen Roses, for example, as well. Those are the clubs that are still existing.
Thanks a lot for that history lesson. Now we're going to link to the mayor who's addressing the people of Port Elizabeth back at City Hall. Here we go.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor Siabulela.
Can you hear me?
Thank you very much.
Yes, can you hear me?
We are very happy as the city, especially with our own coach, with our own captain, Usia, with our own assistant coach, Sticks. Now we're going to allow Sticks to come and talk to us. With our Sticks. Hello everyone, please. Hello everybody. I don't want to be long. From the bottom of my heart and from the bottom of our Springbok team, I would just want to say thank you to Port Elizabeth. Thank you to the friendly city. Thank you to all South Africans. And let's all remember, together we are strong. Let's make sure that we unite the town to be a good foundation for us. And thank you to my team. Thank you to everyone. Coach Rasmus. Thank you to Sia. Mother Mary. Hope to them. Thanks a lot. I'm not even on this now. Springboks, please don't know what my classmate telling me what to say. Thank you, Mother Mary. Thank you for welcoming. Thank you for the hospitality. Thank you for everything. Requested the captain, because we must still go to look like this to greet to Motherland, to Disperse, to Yubni, the Neckar. But my last friend, yeah, we're
To do a vote of thanks is up to Wazobulela Bambasepai, so we can start with the call. Come closer, a vote of thanks in this Zobulela and the Banulekile. Wazobulela Lekindinga, Bulela Player, thank you very much. Sibukela nani ngoba sibuza nizobona umsebenzi omhle kangaka. Continue to support our Springbok, our national heritage, our national team. Go to the streets of Nelson Mandela. Thank you very much. We are behind you fully. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mogo siya hapa ngoko. Siya mata wa msego like in the same future.
All right, so those are scenes then from City Hall where the Boks are making that stop to address the crowds there. Because we saw earlier on the mayor of Nelson Mandela Bay, Mongameli Popani, talking to the crowds. Quite a character, that gentleman. Of course, he's from the UDM, and Bantu Holomisa, who is the leader of the UDM, was apparently quite the huge rugby player back in his day. So you can imagine just the sort of rich history of rugby really throughout the province of the Eastern Cape, but I suppose particularly in these spots that the Springboks are making their stop. So we saw yesterday with East London, and of course now them being in Port Elizabeth. I mean, there is really just excitement about the Boks, but also because it just seems that rugby is such a culture in this particular province. We saw Zandile Stick, the assistant coach, speaking to the crowds as well there, and he was the unsung hero, but I think that at the moment he's getting all that recognition, and there was a lot of talk about what he did for the back line, and really just being the right-hand man for Rassie Erasmus, and it is fantastic that he is getting that recognition. Of course, he himself as well from Port Elizabeth, and they will be travelling there to Zwide in a short while. I'll give you that route in a moment. Of course, we saw the crowd asking to see Faf de Klerk and his now infamous Speedos with the South African flag on them. That was quite funny, and that picture's sort of been everywhere now, where we saw Faf de Klerk shaking hands with Prince Harry while in his South African flag Speedos. So no doubt that's become the thing that we sort of link him to, those Speedos of his. And of course we saw the crowds also going a bit crazy for Makazole Mapimpi. So some of the players, I mean, they with any World Cup there's going to be those star players that sort of are on the mouths and lips of everybody, and we can sort of see, even when the kids are being spoken to, the young people are being spoken to, there's key names that they all sort of talk about. Of course, Siya Kolisi and Makazole Mapimpi, Zandile Stick and Faf de Klerk, that they all sort of link this 2019 World Cup to. So that's the scenes then that we're showing you then from City Hall. They're going to move along, and this is when this, I suppose, longish track to Zwide then starts. So they will leave at this point where they are at City Hall and move along then to Wolfson Stadium and then off to Zwide. So I think that Zwide will, of course, be in the middle of their stops. The other stop, of course, will be Mandela Peace Park. That's in Motherwell. And then from Mandela Peace Park, they'll move to Uitenhage. From Uitenhage, they will then go to Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, as of course we would expect them to. From Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, they will then move to Green Acres. Now, after Green Acres, they will then go to PE International Airport. I will get some clarity, but I do understand that from that point, they then leave for the Western Cape. And of course, then the rest of their tour will then continue in the Western Cape, starting then in Cape Town. But I do understand that they leave from this point then at the end of the day today. And that will be their route then. So that's the victory tour, the trophy tour. And you can see just the huge amount of people who have come, who have gathered at different parts of Port Elizabeth today, this morning, to get a glimpse, to catch a glimpse of the Springboks and really the heroes that brought back the Webb Ellis Cup for us. You see it again being waved so that, we get enough of seeing the Webb Ellis Cup. But can we really get enough of seeing that cup? So the third time that it is here in South Africa, thanks to Siya Kolisi and the guys. I see they will be on the move shortly now, and as I said, then there is that track then that will be leading them eventually to Zwide, but they do have quite a few other stops throughout Port Elizabeth. You can imagine that stop in Zwide will be particularly special and significant for Siya Kolisi and Uzandile Stick, having been from them. I mean, you did see, of course, one of our reporters was at the school, one of the schools that Siya Kolisi was at. Zolani Moya, our reporter there, was at the school. And they've made a banner for him. There's some of the learners from that school there present, clearly just so excited about the fact that they get to catch a glimpse of Siya Kolisi today, who's made, the dreams that they have quite a reality. I mean, as I mentioned, I think I spoke about it yesterday, the fact that, Siya Kolisi didn't necessarily start from the most privileged background where he would have had access to state-of-the-art stadiums and facilities to practice his rugby. He started on the streets of Zwide, and I can imagine he probably didn't have, the best kit. So he's made such a momentous occasion, also a possibility for some of those children that are walking in the streets of Zwide today, that are going to be welcoming him today. Some of them will be able to say, you know what, this is true, this can happen for me as well. So this is very exciting. There we go, the bus on the move again. At some point we'll also be crossing to Janine Lee. She's our reporter in PA as well. She is behind that bus, following that bus at every turn, every track it's going on. She is right there behind it. All right, let me cross to one of our other reporters that we haven't crossed to this morning. She is in New Brighton, Iviwe Poti. We spoke to her a lot yesterday. She was up and down East London. She is in New Brighton this morning. Iviwe, a very good morning to you. Take us through what's happening in New Brighton this morning.
A very good morning to you too, Flo. As you can see, we are in New Brighton outside Stick's house, where a number of people have started gathering to celebrate as he comes. I can actually spot one of his best friends that he grew up with, Vuyo Mhlobiso, who also played rugby with him. Vuyo, at this stage, how are you guys feeling as a community as Stick is going to come through with the other Bok players whom also come from this area?
First and foremost, we're very proud of Zwandile Stick and what he's achieved. He's shown a lot to all the kids in the community that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. So we're really happy for him, and as a community we've been backing him ever since the World Cup started, and we're very, very proud of him that he could come back with the World Cup here in New Brighton. Thanks.
Vuyo, as well, looking at the rugby community within the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro and the Eastern Cape as a whole, you've been exposed to rugby. You're currently giving back to the community, also coaching, helping coach a local team. What do you think can be done going forward to ensure and empower young rugby players that are coming from townships and rural areas?
Yeah, well, this is one of the things. As we can see from Zwandile Sticks here, Kolisi as well, Makazole Mampimpi and Lucanyo Am, that Eastern Cape has rich rugby, a very rich rugby background, and for SA Rugby and all the other investing companies to put full support behind the Eastern Cape as a rugby town.
All right, we will be coming back, of course, to Nelson Mandela Bay. As you can see, that bus making its track, and we're moving along to Zwide in a short while. And of course, as I told you, many other stops that the Boks have this morning. They'll be moving to Mandela Peace Park as well, to Uitenhage, and then from Uitenhage to Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, from Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium to Green Acres, and then after that, they will be turning to PE International Airport, and I understand from that point they will then be flying to the Western Cape, where of course their tour will happen in Cape Town, and I suppose we'll see similar scenes in Cape Town of that bus tour. So that will be tomorrow that they will be in the Western Cape. So this is the last day of the Eastern Cape leg of the tour of the Victory Lap. I like to call it a Victory Lap. So that's what's happening at the moment. You can see heavy police presence. I imagine all of Port Elizabeth is out on the streets today to see the Boks. All right, let me bring in my guests. Well, South Africa never runs short of things to boast about when it comes to showing off to international tourists, and the recent arrival of what promises to be one of South Africa's most prized possessions, that's the Webb Ellis Cup, may resonate with many prospective tourists from around the world. To discuss this, we're joined in the studio by tourism academic Unathi Sonobile Henama from the Tshwane University of Technology. Mr. Henama, thank you so very much for joining us here today on the agenda. So what does, the Rugby World Cup victory really mean for South African tourism? Is there something that then tells people this is a country to visit? Is there a link between tourism and winning a Rugby World Cup?
First and foremost, South Africa is a bucket list destination in the world. And this win obviously captivates the brand image of South Africa. So we are able now to resonate good news to the whole world and say we're the rugby champions. Most importantly, remember that last year when they were voting for the World Cup, for the next World Cup in 2023, France was chosen over South Africa. So we are a great sporting nation when it comes to rugby. So this is a great opportunity for us to attract a lot of those sports tourists, even heritage. I mean, PE might be the biggest beneficiary out of all of this because see us from there. And it's a town that wants to increase the number of tourists that want to go there. I mean, recently flights started from Lanzarote going to PE, especially township tourism, because I mean they are able to trace the Rex Ridges story of Siya Kolisi, and that would be a great opportunity to promote township tourism. So the city of PE, Nelson Mandela Bay, they must milk this to the bone. I mean, and that's what I wanted to go to. I mean, do you feel that we do take advantage or rather capitalize on something like this where, we've won the World Cup, and even if we do capitalize, how exactly would the leadership, let's say, in Nelson Mandela Bay be able to capitalize on something like this? I mean, we can see this tour of the bus, but that's really just South Africans in the streets welcoming, their heroes back home. But how do you capitalize in terms of bringing people from outside of the country, or even people that are in the country, to go to PE? How do you capitalize and make that happen? At the top of my mind, two options. They can build a museum or a statue of Siya Kolisi, or possibly the three captains, and do it like the Blue IQ project of Gauteng. Use it as part of urban renewal. Put it in the center of town. Ensure that more people arrive there. I mean, if you go to the V&A waterfront, you've got the statue of Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, and F.W. de Klerk, and everybody wants to take a picture there. So it becomes a bucket list activity to do. And if they put it there in PE, in the city center, as part of urban renewal, I believe obviously change the fortunes of this town.
I mean, it's very easy to talk about, the urban areas, the cities and all of that, where people would ordinarily be wanting to go to anywhere. But my concern is places like, like Zwide. It's a township, and I don't know how much it attracts tourism. What opportunities do places like Zwide sort of face now that we know that someone like, Zandile Stick and Siya Kolisi are coming from there? What kind of opportunities can the people of Zwide say, okay, listen, we've got this. We've got a World Cup winning captain who is from where we are. How do we capitalize on this?
If you look at Robben Island, the story of Robben Island was spoken by Ahmed Khatara for many years.
Yeah.
But now people have got a platform on Airbnb experiences where it can be the people of Zwide, that curator, the tour of Zwide, speaking about a person that they know, relating a local story, but most importantly, it must be people of Zwide that own that tourism. Remember, township tourism is a niche market, but they can grow it. But the most important thing is about ownership and ensuring that the vast majority of money that comes in is retained.
Is there enough support though for that? I mean, for township tourism, we can't expect. I know, as you say, it's a niche market. You must, in townships generally people make their own business, make their own money. But surely there needs to be a point where they have the support of governments, and they have the support to have the what we have in Soweto at the moment, the street where Nelson Mandela stayed at some point, it's become a booming area for people to come, for tourists to come. They all want to be there, and it's, we've got restaurants lined up there. But surely there should be some sort of support coming from higher up. Is there enough of that, or do you feel that more could actually then be done?
The National Department of Tourism is an excellent partner in creating development. They've got a social responsibility fund that funds such issues. So obviously it requires the active participation of all levels of government in the Eastern Cape to work with NDT and try and find a way how they can create a heritage linkage and ensure that this becomes a hub to attract people to the Eastern Cape, particularly Port Elizabeth and most importantly the outlying areas of Zwide.
All right, one of the most important things that I've heard, people who start up businesses, they said, when it comes to starting up, and particularly when you don't have the initial capital, there is so much red tape when it comes to starting up those businesses. Would you say that the National Department of Tourism, and you've praised it in saying that they are very involved and they have that where they want to assist, is there, a way to look into addressing what some business people have been saying is a lot of red tape when it comes to picking up businesses and starting businesses?
I believe the issue of red tape is a national issue that even government is articulating. The Western Cape, I think, is the first province where they've got a red tape initiative to ensure that they reduce red tape, because at the end of the day we need small businesses to thrive, to create jobs. But I believe right now in the country there is political will to reduce red tape. I believe that. All
right. Well, the Webb Ellis Cup couldn't have come at a better time when government has sort of announced now that there's a relaxation of visa requirements for people with children. What's your take on this? Is this indeed a good one?
It's a good one. 5 years later, all of us in the country are much more wiser. We now understand that different government departments need to obviously coexist and articulate what their plans are. A whole of government approach to tourism is important. So now, after the visa regulations have been reduced and more visa-free countries have been issued and the unabridged birth certificate, now we need to go and speak about aviation access. We need to ensure that more airlines come here. I mean, if a person has to go to Thailand compared to us, based just on flights, they'll beat us hands down. So we need a favorable aviation policy that will ensure that a lot of people come to our country. So the conversation is much greater. Another conversation obviously linked to that is the issue of safety and security. As we always say in the tourism industry, if the towns and cities are great enough for the people to stay there, the tourists will naturally come. And the fundamental question is, are the towns and cities great enough for us as citizens to stay there? Obviously, I do not think so. But I believe if we address the issue of safety, we'll have more people coming. But we want more independent travelers. We don't want them to come with tour operators in all of those schemes. No, we want them to be much more independent travelers. And the minute local communities derive direct financial benefit from the tourists, I promise you, tourists become much more safer. Look at how many volunteer tourists are in Soweto, and they're safe. Yeah. But that's because the people of Soweto clearly understand the value and the value that they derive from tourism. Hence, they become much more tourism.
So, is there some sort of, I suppose, accessibility to skills training? Because, when it comes, we can all sort of just start a business, but there needs to be a background of having, some sort of skills. We're seeing a lot of poverty, and as I looked at some of the visuals, I was looking at the streets of Tanzania, and it was great to see those scenes where children were excited, and some of the school children, the learners were very happy to see your Siakolisis and all of the guys there. But behind all of that excitement and behind all of that euphoria, you kind of also can't help but to see the poverty behind that. And then they drive into the cities, and it's all lovely, and it's everything's been developed. Is there on the part of tourism a look at that to say, look, we can't have a situation where we're having this tour bus that's going through the streets of what was it? It was yesterday. It was East London, where we're passing these developed areas, which is fantastic. But then we're also then going into the townships, and we're seeing really much of the same. And is there a push to make those areas more developed? Is there skills training to get people to want to make their townships developed? What is the way forward? Because we don't want a situation where we win the cup again, and yet again we're coming back to these areas and we're seeing exactly the same as what we saw this year.
In the tourism industry, we always articulate that before tourism works properly, local government must function. Do you understand? And number two, the structural issues of our economy, such as unemployment, poverty, and all of those things, those are structural, and we need to address that. But from a sector of tourism, remember, since 1994, the fastest growth has happened in tourism as a sector. We've created more jobs than any other sector. Robust, labor-intensive jobs. As more tourists arrive, more jobs are created. So from our side as a tourism sector, we are playing a very, very major role. Remember, right now, the stats came out last year that indicate that tourism is the second largest employer after mining. Much bigger than agriculture. So the tourism sector becomes a very, very important buffer for the economic challenges we're facing in the country. But for that to happen, remember, the enablers, visa-free travel, safety and security, aviation policy, but most importantly, we need to get social cohesion so that people clearly understand. And I think a province like Mpumalanga has done it very well. Areas where there is booming tourism, even if there are service delivery strikes, the service delivery strike people will say the bus must pass, because they clearly understand that my mother, my grandmother, my brother is working there. Let the bus pass, and let's engage government on a different level.
All right, Mr. Henneman, let's pause for a second and go back to Port Elizabeth. We're going to join Iviwe Boti, who is, of course, in New Brighton. She was outside Mzwandile Sticks home, and I believe at some point the bus will be passing there. I cannot imagine the level of excitement in the area at the moment. I mean, they really have ownership at this point of Mzwandile Stick, and just the phenomenal job he did in Japan as the assistant coach. Talk to us about what's happening currently outside Mzwandile Stick's home in New Brighton, then Iviwe.
Good morning once again, Flo. We are outside Mzwandile Sticks home. You'll remember that Mzwandile at some stage was also leading and captaining at the SA7s when they won a World Cup even then. And I guess that's the same excitement that his community is sharing with him now that he's assistant coach. As you can see behind me, there's also a banner that people have here in New Brighton to celebrate an individual in which they look up to, specifically those who are in the rugby community. Stick once played for Springboks, a local team here. I think he actually comes from a sporting family. We're going to speak to his cousin, who also plays rugby, who's going to tell us just in terms of Maletsi Kasqalesi ngathi mhlambi xa sithetha ngakumbi nina abantu basadlalela iSpringboks, nina nisajongile kubantu abafana noSiyakolisi noMzwandile Stick, badlala indima engakanani ukuqinisekisa aniliyeke liphupha nodlala umbhoxo?
Like indima ebayidlalayo enkulu kakhulu kaloku kuba xa udlala irugby like ba uyakhumbula kudala irugby kwakuthathwa izifo ngabana sisports abantu abamhlophe, yabo. So xa sibona bona kule ndawo bakuyo iyasinika umdla nathi singabadlali abancinci bangabana ngolunye usuku nathi sawufikelela kule ndawo bakuyo, because akho mntu besazi bangabana bangakule ndawo bakuyo bengabantu abamnyama besuka like kwezi strato zalapha elokishini, yabo. Kuba kaloku khumbula kukho i-nutrition, kukho zonke izinto which is abakwazi usifumana khabakwazi usifumana but ke ngenxa yalento bangabana banenzondelelo yalento bayifunayo khange baphazamiseka bebomini baye bafocused thukulento bafuna uyenza and then namhlanje imivuzo ibavuzekile namhlanje.
I see you wearing an EP hockey top and you're out here to celebrate the Boks as well. As a young individual who's trying to make it in the sporting fraternity, how excited are you to see the Boks come through? And what does it mean to you to actually see people from your community being part of the World Cup and making it in their sports field?
It inspires me a lot for the Boks coming back, bringing it back home to us. And I'm really excited as a young one for the young sportswomen coming up. And I feel like I've been inspired to work hard and achieve, and with that being working harder with hard work, you'll achieve your goals.
Thank you so much. Well, Flo, amongst all the excitement, you can also see the inspiration that is coming from the Boks. I think the first interview we did, what's important there is that they're saying although these are players that weren't exposed to being fortunate enough to have good nutritional values, great sporting fields within their communities, but they managed to actually make it, which is an inspiration to them as well. And even for those who are young, who are still, thriving to be in the sports community, male or female, these Boks are playing a huge role in terms of inspiring them to keep working hard and achieving their dreams. I know the bus has left the City Hall and they'll be making their way through to where we are, and from here they'll make their way to Zwide as well, the home area of Captain Siyakolisi. But I think let's also cross to our other colleagues who are in the various areas. But for now, it's back to you guys in studio.
All right, Ivua, thank you very much. Ivua Porti coming to us from New Brighton. We'll obviously have all our cameras there stationed outside Mzandile Sticks home as soon as that bus arrives there. So that's Ivua speaking to us from there. We're going to be crossing to her in a moment as well. I still have my guest with me, tourism academic Unathi Sonwabile Enama from the Tshwane University of Technology. And I mean, Mr. Enama, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We were having this conversation, the fact that, all right, you've got this guy, Mzandile Stick, who's done so well for himself, really, in terms of rugby and brought a spotlight to places like New Brighton. I mean, you look around our reporter, Ivua Porti, and you see the kind of, it's an area that needs a lot of development. So we can't have situations where we have these bright stars that always have to fight to get to the top because, they're starting from so at the bottom like this. Is there a push in terms of saying, look, where we see potential, right? This is how we're going to help this potential. I mean, I can imagine that in that area, there are many young potential Mzandile Sticks in the area, but some of them might get discouraged and not want to go through, the hardships that perhaps Mzandile Stick has gone through. What role then is the tourism sector in these regions supposed to do in terms of saying, listen, we need to do more to develop these places so that we can get money into those areas and indeed have more development?
Development must be integrated. Tourism must be integrated within the economic policies and plans of a city. When I look at the story of Zwide, hence I say it's a great tourism, cultural heritage project that is waiting to be tapped.
Yeah.
Obviously, that must be identified by the municipality, working with the provincial government and national government, for them to use those funds available at NDT, because those funds are intending to ensure that there's geographic spread of tourists towards areas that are not unnatural tourism destinations, to ensure that people benefit, and this leads to the creation of SMMEs, but most importantly, local ownership. And I believe the tourism industry is playing its role, but obviously we require a concerted effort from particularly local government, because with the tourism industry, our biggest challenge that we always complain about the failure of local government and how that impacts on the tourism sector from the small dorpy to the biggest towns. And you find that cities that clearly understand their role in tourism will always ensure that the citizens have got a great quality of life. Then the tourists will naturally come.
Yeah, but it seems that local government really sort of concentrates resources in one place instead of sort of leveling it out. Why is that the case? It seems that those places that would already be attracting tourists, they sort of get the most funding and they get the most resources. Whereas if we could trickle down and spread out those resources, you might find that the entire region would then be able to attract tourists. Are we looking into that?
Yes, that's why research obviously within the higher education sector is so important, because immediately when you show value and you get empirical research that indicates that township tourism got value, rural tourism has got value, farm tourism got value, then those arguments within municipal councils, when obviously people are debating budgets, are important. And that means also tourism role players must also engage councillors, they must engage members of MPLs and members of obviously national parliament to ensure that this conversation happens, because you find in most cases you find that the budget of tourism might be small, but related budgets are related maybe in the heritage sector, might be in sports. So it's important that they also speak to these different role players that might have an impact on tourism.
All right, we're going to interrupt you again just to cross to our reporter, Janine Lee, who is, of course, been following the bus for us throughout the morning. She's in one of the vehicles behind the buses that are carrying the Springboks this morning. Janine, I see that it is raining now at this point, but that hasn't stopped the fans from coming out. Talk to us about what's happening there, where you currently are, and where exactly you are headed at this point.
Making its way down Governor Becky, and the left has opened up.
Look how clean the town is. Look how clean the town is.
All right, we're struggling a little bit there with our audio. We'll obviously get our technical team to sort that one out for us so that we can have a clear conversation then with Janine Lee. And as I did mention, just to bring you back in again, that of course from Wolfson Stadium, which is where the Boks will be going, they're then heading to Zwide, and then from Zwide to Mandela Peace Park, that's in Motherwell, and then from Mandela Peace Park to Uitenhage, where they will then be crossing to Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, which will be quite an important one. I think that there'll be a lot of fans and supporters at that stadium, where of course a lot of the players, particularly those from the Eastern Cape, would have been playing at that stadium. So that's a very significant one. So from Nelson Mandela Bay, and then of course to Green Acres. And as you heard from our reporter Iviwe Poti, who is in New Brighton outside Mzwandile Sticks House, there is a huge crowd just waiting, and I can imagine the sort of a hero's welcome that Mzwandile Stick will be receiving as soon as he hits New Brighton. I mean, just outside his house there is absolute chaos as the people await to see their hero. Let's cross to Janine. I believe that the line is now all right. Janine Lee following the buses that are carrying the Springboks for us this morning. Janine, good morning. What's happening there? I see it is raining, but the fans are still out. They don't care.
Back Captain Sia Khaleesi. Also an interesting thing in tourism here in the Eastern Cape.
All right, we're struggling with that sound, but we will sort it out. I'm going to continue with my conversation with Mr. Henama, who's a tourism academic from the Tshwane University of Technology. I want to talk about, the importance really of sport in general. I mean, I saw one of the supporters that came there is actually a hockey player, and I was talking about the fact that, she's still out there to support the rugby players. Is there a need to have more focus on the sports that are, sometimes called the not so popular sports, really? I mean, just recently, our netball ladies won a championship in Africa, and they're not been getting, the kind of attention that they also sort of deserve. How important is it to link tourism to really all the national sports that we have? I mean, we are very strong in sports like hockey, like netball, as we are in rugby. How important important is it for the tourism sector to kind of identify and go, wait, this is a sport that we can link ourselves to and give attention to our country, because that might be a missed opportunity. The fact that we've won an Africa Cup for our netball, and no doubt, of course, we would be focusing on our rugby, but surely that there's a gap right there as well.
Sports tourism is big business.
Yes.
I mean, you saw during the 2010 World Cup, I mean, you just saw just in Japan how many people, just many South Africans visiting Japan.
Yes.
And what we must understand is that if we play our cards right, we should be working with sports federations and say, for PE, what can we attract? A few years ago, PE attracted the sevens, RP sevens that were to play there, which were traditionally played where? In Stellenbosch. You know, for the past couple of years, whenever the Premier Soccer League will have a championship final, it will always be where? In PE, obviously taking some business away from Durban.
Yeah.
So the sports industry is very, very important, but a town must understand what makes it unique. I mean, for example, PE will have Grey High School, you know, a very good rugby school.
Yes.
So the question is, how do we attract rugby schools from all over the world to come and play championships there?
Yes.
You know, so it's important, hence that collaboration between local government and the private sector to ensure that we identify a sports federation and say, what can we attract? A few years ago, I mean, I was just happened to be in Bloemfontein. Drum Major's championships are happening in Bloemfontein in June. And I mean, that means that the hotels, the hostels, the food and beverage outlets, that is money from outside the local economy, from the local economy coming in. That obviously will keep the lights going on.
Yes.
Every time like the last week, the Soto Derby was in Durban. Imagine how many people from Gauteng went there.
Yes.
Just domestic tourism. I mean, if you went to the hotels in the CBD of Johannesburg, and so how many people came from outside the country to come and watch the Soweto Derby? So must never, sometimes, I don't think that tourism plays an important role on sports. Next year, the city of Cape Town will obviously be hosting maybe in several years' time, they'll be hosting the World Cup for netball.
Yeah.
That means a lot for the economy of the Western Cape and of South Africa. So we must understand that we must attract these smaller events, not the big events, because the conversation obviously within tourism is that the big events for developing countries hardly bring long-term benefit. I mean, if you look at the amount of money we spend on the 2020 World Cup, it's money we never had.
Exactly.
Because we used long-term debt.
But I suppose the smaller events are our bread and butter. So we do have to kind of focus on those ones, eh?
Because we're using existing infrastructure and not creating anything new.
Yes.
That is very important to ensure that there is sustainability. And obviously, with the fiscal situation we're facing in South Africa right now, we cannot afford any event that takes away money that could have been used on education, healthcare, and otherwise.
Yeah.
So we must focus on the smaller events that will bring immense benefit to a destination.
Just before I wrap up with you, it's been such a pleasure having a conversation with you. Yesterday you were at the awards dinner, the Lilizela Awards that I was not invited to, by the way. Yeah. And of course it's the awards that are for the tourism industry. What exactly do these awards do, and what are they rewarding?
They are the Oscars of tourism.
Yeah.
Celebrating service excellence, because we understand that the people that come there, the tourists, will obviously have a better understanding of the service that is offered. So therefore, this is based on, first of all, remote judging by the judges. Number two, visitations by people to go and check whether the standards are up to date. But most importantly, integrated technology, checking what people are saying there, so that establishments understand that tourism is a happiness industry. When people come, they must give them an exceptional experience, and they must go home gloating, speaking great things about the destination, because this is about the competitiveness of the tourism industry in South Africa. People must speak good things about their experiences, so that when they go back home, they can tell others to come back to this great country.
All right, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so very much, Mr. Unathi Sonwabile Henama from the Tshwane University of Technologies and Tourism academic, and really your wealth of knowledge was so appreciated here on SABC News, The Agenda. Thank you so much for being here with us, sir.